Hi, I'm Heather from Heather Handmade. Welcome to a different view of my sewing room. Today I am going to show you the process of setting up a projector on the ceiling that projects a pattern down onto this table right here. So this is the Projector ceiling mount. This is the Vankyo Leisure for $70. This is a sponsored video. I was sent these items to review and I will be paid for the review. I'm going to do an honest review, how I feel about it. You'll see the process of me setting it up, figuring out if it works. I am excited to try it out. I've never done a cut out a pattern using a projector before. I was always a little nervous about it. I didn't want to invest the time or money into it. But this will be a great way for me to try it out and let you know if it is something that you maybe would be interested in also. So you can see I have the projector mount set up on the ceiling. It took me about 10 minutes to get it all set up, so it didn't take me that long. I have opened the projector. It comes in this nice little bag in case I need to travel with it, and now I'm going to open up and look at the inside and get it all set up. So I turned off all my lights so you can see I have the projector set up. Now I have to get it the right size. This table is easy to move around, so I will leave the projector here, but I need to get it to project the right size. It needs to be clear and focused, so that is what I'm going to work on next. It's a little bit dark in here because I've turned all my lights off, so then I can see this projection. It is hard because I do have a lot of windows in here, and even though they have blinds, it's still a little bright in here. So this might be something I can only do at night, or you have to choose a room that you can fully close all your windows. So the first thing to do is you're going to check if your corners are right angles. So I have pulled up, this is like a basic page I have in Illustrator with a bunch of lines, so I'm just going to line up a ruler, see how my lines look. And my lines are not at a right angle, so I need to rotate the screen slightly. So I've now gotten it to be a right angle, and now I'm going to calibrate it. I'm going to get this, what's projecting, to be like, if it's a 1 inch, I have a 1 inch square up here. I need that 1 inch square to be 1 inch on the table. I don't know if you can see very well in the camera. It's hard for the camera to pick up, and I did have to turn the light back on so that you can see me a little bit in the camera. But I finally got the projector connected to my computer. You can see that this is the same screen here. So I'm doing it through a wireless, like this computer is it's throwing the screen, it's sharing the screen to the projector, and then the projector is projecting the image down here, which means I don't have to have the projector connected to my computer. It's just done wirelessly. I do have to have a cord connected from my projector to like a power plug. So I have a cord. You can't see it from there, but I've kind of like hooked it on a thing over on the wall so that it's not hanging down in the way. So that is a little bit annoying that you have to have a power plug. You have to plug it in somewhere, so you either have to like put it in over by the wall, or you know, rig it up with something in the ceiling. And then the other problem, so this projector, you need to have about 5 feet between the projector and the table or the surface that you're working on to get like a really big projected image to do like full size, like if I were to use like an AO or like a 36 wide image that you use for like, you know, like giant printers that print out papers. So I don't have enough space between here. It's too close. I would have to move my table and use the floor to do a whole big thing. But I still wanted to test it out and, you know, figure it out before, so that I can, you know, review it for this video. So I chose one of my patterns. This is the tote bag pattern that I just shared the video a couple of days ago. It's just four like 8 by 10 pieces of paper, you know, next to each other, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have, there's an inch to measure, there's like the straight lines I have all the way around. This is a small pattern that I'm using right now, but I have my ruler and I've lined it up with the inch. It is a little tricky because it's so light in here. I only have one light on, and I have my blinds, my windows covered, but I think this is a nighttime thing. I can't do this during the day. It looks to be about the right size. So now that I have the, you know, the image is the correct size, it's calibrated correctly, the 90 degrees are all lined up, so this would be like perfect to cut out this pattern. Then I do have a cutting mat underneath that I placed right here, and then this is just an example of fabric. This isn't fabric I would be using, but you know, I could line up perfectly these straight lines if I wanted to line it up with the edges of the pattern so that I could get the pattern placement correctly. So I do like that feature that I can see the whole like the part of the fabric that's going to be cut out. I can, you know, align that up perfectly as I would want it to be. That would make like placement a lot easier instead of putting a piece of paper over the fabric and then you can't see what's going on underneath. So what do I think about projectors for sewing? I think that I'm still a little undecided because of this version of the projector. I would have to do it on the floor, which I don't love that because I already cut on the floor a lot, and I would love to be able to do it on the table. For kids patterns, I really like the idea of projector sewing. I think it would make a huge difference because for me, I have 3 kids, 3 different sizes. I almost never alter patterns for them because I'm doing like looser fit or knit or something. And so for my kids, if I ever have to do something, it's maybe slightly adding length. And so I could do that without, you know, I just put a ruler down to make sure I'm cutting lower than the ruler. I don't have to print out the pattern, tape it together. Then do I print out the pattern 3 times for my 3 different sizes I need and cut those out individually, or do I print out one and then trace each size? So then I have the 3 different sizes. So I like the idea of projector sewing. I like the idea of projecting kids' patterns because I don't have to print and tape, but then I can cut out multiple sizes without dealing with paper or anything like that. You know, it's just like I always make my kids Christmas pajamas. I make them lots of things, but what comes to mind is making Christmas pajamas, and I project it out and I'm doing the same pattern for all of them, and I just, you know, project it onto each fabric I'm using for them and then cut out the size. So I love that idea. There is part of the reason I don't sew as much for kids as I used to is because I hate having to do 3 different sizes for them. It's a lot of work, and I kind of avoid it. So I do like that idea for kids. For me, I have to do a lot of alterations for myself to get patterns to fit. I have some unique proportions, like I'm tall in some areas and petite in some areas, so I need to add height, but I need to remove height. And you know, like I have a dropped shoulder on one side and a high hip, and I have all of these really, like, I have to add width for my calves and all of these weird, unique things that are great because then I can have a perfect fit for my body, but it's all things that I need to do by paper. I don't trust myself to be able to do it on, I mean, I use Illustrator a lot. It's a great program and I know how to use it, but part of when you're like altering patterns on paper, it's hard to explain, but where you cut and like open it, like you're adding width or length in the exact place that you're adding it. And so I don't know if it works the same in Illustrator where you're just like stretching it out or making it wider. Like, I don't think it really works the same way, but that might be just because I was trained at a university and I worked with different professors and learned how to do like flat pattern alterations and draping. And so I think of patterns, you know, maybe it's old-fashioned, maybe other people have had really, you know, a lot of success altering patterns on Illustrator and I don't. For me, it just, you know, it holds me back a little bit with the alterations. And the other thing that I read when I was like researching projectors and stuff is that if I'm altering a pattern as I'm cutting it out using the projector, if I don't write it down, those alterations are not saved. If I do a paper pattern and I cut it out and alter it, then the next time I go to use it, it's exactly the same. Like with all my alterations, I can see everything I've done, so I can, if I'm like, oh, I need to tweak this one little part that I did, then it would still be there. But if I am just projecting, you don't always see the exact alterations you did, so you might not realize if you don't like the fit or something because you can't, you know, you're not seeing those changes. To recap, the pros of using a projector to cut out sewing patterns for sewing is you don't have to print and cut. Even if you use a pattern that you bought by paper, you don't ever have to cut it out because the pattern is just projected onto your fabric. You can do your placement of your pattern a lot easier because you can see the fabric underneath the pattern and move it as you need. Like pattern matching would be so much easier with a projector. So you're not wasting ink or paper or time to get your pattern ready. It is just projected. Using a projector for sewing is really, really great if you are doing multiple sizes with one pattern and you don't need a lot of alterations, because then you just project it and then you can cut it to the size that you need multiple times, and that is, you know, awesome. Once you have the projector set up, it is really fast to turn it on. You know, just check your settings real quick and then you could just get cutting. So it makes like the cutting out process of sewing so fast. You just turn it on, you get it done. The cons of using a projector for sewing is one, it takes a little bit of time to get the projector attached to your ceiling and then calibrated. That took me the longest time. It did not take me long to get the projector connected to the ceiling. It took me a very long time to get it calibrated the right size, to get it 90-degree angles. That, you know, I worked with for a long time. The other thing is you have to research a lot of different projectors to figure out what your distance should be. So this projector is actually like too close to this table. I would either need higher ceilings, which I could do in another part of my house, but I don't want to have my projector in that part of the house, or I can remove this table and I can do it on the floor, and then I recalibrate it for the floor distance. So you do have to take time to research to figure out what will work in your sewing space. And like, there are some projectors that can sit just nearby and they, you know, just, you know, do it from an angle. So do a little bit of research, figure out what works for you. If you have to do alterations, I have a hard time with alterations and sewing projector because I think it should be done by paper, and you don't have a record of those alterations if you do it in a program, or you're just doing it like by hand, like moving the fabric around as you cut. If you don't need to do alterations, then the projector is awesome. Another con, if you don't like the look of like the projector sitting on your ceiling, it will be there. I don't think it's that big of a deal because it's pretty close to the ceiling. It's, you know, it's not that big. It doesn't take up that much space visually, so I'm not worried about it. I do want to try cutting stuff out for my kids when I have it projected on the floor, and then I can have a big space. You do need to make sure that the patterns you are buying, PDF patterns, come with either a projector file or like an AO or a 36 by 48 size. Those are all like PDF files, and like, so then you open it on your computer. You might have to turn it so you can see it. Like if your computer is like landscape screen, then you need to see the pattern like the widthwise, so you can see the whole pattern in the screen, so that the projector can project that whole pattern down onto your surface, and then you calibrate to make sure that it's the right size. You get that 1 inch, the correct measurement. This was my honest review of cutting out sewing patterns with sewing with a projector. I think there are good and bad things about a projector, and there's good and bad things about a paper. You have to figure out what works for you. I think if you get it set up and it really works in your space, then it makes cutting out patterns so fast, so fast. Like you just like turn it on and then you're cutting. Like that's amazing how fast you can go, and you don't have to deal with cutting out a pattern, taping a pattern, pinning it on, adjusting it, you know, so much of that. But you do have to deal with some of the things that come with doing the projector to make it work for you. Let me know, would you ever try using a projector for sewing patterns? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear any experiences that you have had about using a projector. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you have a wonderful day.